From the moment he clawed out from under his rock, he knew the world would be his oyster. Before man or any other insignificant insect dragged itself across the face of the planet, he ruled. Darkness, death, and brilliant fire swimming in the clouds. The world was made for him, and he for it. He was supreme. From the beginning of the beginning, the other beings that sprouted up from night's decrepit womb crouched behind boulders and in the earth's cavernous crevices when he was near. The ground itself trembled under his feet, and mountains jumped out of his path. All this, nature kneeling at his feet, amused him. Digging his long, sharp nails into whatever beast he came across, he would laugh. It would die. The things never did die quietly. They kicked and howled, their wordless agony sniveling pathetically at his feet. It was disgusting, and yet unendingly gratifying. Having the life of some wretched creature in his fingers, filling it with the darkest corners of his mind, and then letting the light drain away from its eyes, were the most rewarding pursuits in the world. It gave him power, all-encompassing and everlasting. The high intoxicated and addicted. Of course, his real joy came with the humans. At first, the vermin were like all the others, whining, moaning swine. They scratched and yelled, running their throats dry with distress, and he felt that thrill of indulgence, but they were nothing special. Then, one day, those humans, weak little nothings, made up words to scream at him. Arrival at last! Those words, sounds molded into recognizable patterns, transformed his prey. Someday, those humans would use words to combat him. They would call him fake and try to dissolve his power. Gloating courage over him would become an ideal interest of those animals, and they would think themselves better than him. Words like strength and bravery would be worshipped in their societies, and he would be left out in the cold, alone. Of course, that would take millions of years. At first, the language was unsophisticated. He could travel a few long strides in any direction and meet up with a different set of sounds strung together to form some deeper meaning, though, frankly, he doubted that thinking beasts saw that meaning themselves. Still, those humans were persistent. Their arrangements spread like a plague. They began speaking to each other, conveying news and beliefs. They held rituals. They built raging fires. They made sharp, dangerous tools. Burying their dead was the final straw. He knew the world, his world, was changing forever. The shift wasn't all that awful, though. True, he lost his slot as the head honcho of existence, but he gained something as well. After all, a clever adversary a cleverer enemy makes, and he was nothing if not cleverer. Plotting and scheming were his illicit children. He was old, older than anything those humans could claim, and with all his years over them, he could surely bide his time. Therefore, with the rise of the human race, he decided to store himself away in the shadows, safe from their weapons and growing anger. He still made trips out into their society, of course, but he limited himself, toying with them from afar. He found that he held powers far greater than just his skill at killing. He could actually reach into the humans' minds and taint their subconscious with crippling anxiety. Suddenly, his claws were not his only aspects capable of bringing down a great man. In fact, his powers of persuasion sent even greater men falling to their knees in deliciously demented ways. Causing agonizing pain in these humans became his favorite pastime. He especially liked it when the small ones screamed their sweet songs, caressing his ears like gentle ocean waves crashing onto the seashore. The soft whimpers, sobs hiccuping in their throats and noses running to their lips, were his melodies. The older ones, the ones they called parents, would try to comfort the small ones, spewing lies about how he didn't really exist while they themselves had felt his cold grip and knew the truth. Escape was impossible. Death was inevitable. He had had a name of sorts in his time, but the title hardly fit any human dialect. Over the years, the humans came up with many different labels for him in their many different languages. Terms like gal, monster in the closet, and devil followed him around like well-trained dogs, thoroughly beaten. He enjoyed the nicknames, but none stood out from the rest. None, that is, until the year the humans were calling 1933, when he happened to overhear one buffoon blabbering on and on about something that made many people seem to think was very important. Truth be told, he wasn't paying much attention to the speech. He had far better things to do. The years around that time had been kind to him, breeding dread and depression remarkably. Still, he did catch the words, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself," and he decided that he liked that name. It certainly had a ring to it, fear itself. A slimy smile slipped onto his sinister face as he purred it to himself, black light pouring through the cracks in his sharply pointed teeth. They had nothing to fear but fear itself. Yes, that pleased him very much. They had nothing to fear but him. He was their darkness, their disadvantage, and ultimately their downfall. His smile grew as he unleashed some spiders into the room of that young girl who had so often cried out in terror. He was fear itself, still ruling the world in his own way. Indeed, this world order suited him quite nicely.